And as I was saying, there's sorry that the phone got a little overheated. There's this brilliant shot, probably one of my favorite shots of the whole film, where you see this girl's drink glass and it gets roofied, and the perfect sort of the way it dissolves and everything. I love that shot. And then they just cut. They don't show anything after that. They just cut away. And I love all these moments where they choose not to show stuff. There was one moment in particular that I loved. It reminded me a little bit of Psycho. Rambo goes to the bad guy, one of the bad guys' apartments, and he's looking around for him and sees the guy's not around, and then he realizes the guy's in the shower, and he just walks out of frame and it cuts away, and then they show his decapitated body in the next scene being investigated, and that scene was incredible. And then he has the guy's head and he drops it off on the road. That was just hilarious and awesome, and just so many kick-ass yeah moments like that. And then I have to talk about the scene. There's a scene where his niece, where he's driving her back home, and she's been drugged so much that she's overdosing, and she's dying. And he's telling her, keep your eyes awake, don't let your eyes get closed. And he's telling her the story about her as a kid in a contest. I wasn't focusing much on the story because I did start crying, and I cried a lot during this sequence. And then he brings her home, and then her grandmother sees her, and I started crying during that too. And and other people were crying too, because this was very emotional and very upsetting, and probably the saddest moments of the whole year. And this movie kicks the shit out of It Chapter 2. It kicks the shit out of every other movie I've seen this year, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, even though it's a great movie and I loved it a lot, it has a lot of flaws compared to this movie. It has a lot of cons compared. And this movie doesn't have all the fat that movie has. That movie has a lot of fat in it. Now, finally, probably my favorite moment of the movie is the final action sequence when he pops out of... Well, first off, there's this line that surrounds his property with like explosive fluid inside this tunnel around his property, and as soon as these cars enter it, he sets it on fire. It sets itself on fire and explodes these vehicles, and it's like this fire of hell surrounding Rambo's property. And then Rambo pops out of this hideout, this camouflaged hideout, and starts shooting them with his cowboy repeater. And that was so cool and badass. And they were like, oh my god, who is this guy? Like, they were focused on their mission, but he was just killing one by one like it was a video game or something. And then there's this part in the tunnel where there's music that turns on, and it's like a Johnny Cash song, and that moment was awesome because it felt like, God, that Rambo, he's at a point now where he's so damaged and sort of like he has all this damage to him, and he's like playing music to amuse himself while he's killing these people, and like he's losing his mind, I mean. But then you realize that he played the music to lure the main bad guy to the speaker so that he could have him follow a certain path and everything. And then the final kill of the movie is amazing. And, he rips his heart right out of his chest and throws it on the ground. That was perfect. That was a standout moment of this entire year. And that moment, oh my God, awesome. And everyone was cheering. They were like, yeah, Rambo, yeah. and I was cheering too on the inside. And just overall, this movie really paid off. It really had a great payoff, and didn't leave you disappointed. Like, oh, that was it. And, isn't there any more? No, it oh my God. And then there's that torture scene I didn't even talk about with the guy's bone in his shoulder. He takes it and breaks it in half, and people are like really groaning in the theater. And I was like, yes, finally, a real R-rated movie, finally. So that was such a great experience seeing this movie. And I felt so many emotions during the whole movie, even though the movie might have been kind of generic at first in terms of the plot itself on paper. It was so good. It was directed so well, and it was acted so well, and it made me feel things, and that's what matters. It doesn't matter if the plot is bad, if the writing is bad. If you're feeling things, that's what matters. So I would love to see another sequel to Rambo. I know, he's old, whatever. Who cares? So those are my thoughts on Rambo Last Blood. I love the movie. I'll probably watch it again when it comes out. I'll probably get the Blu-ray so I can listen to the commentary. And I'll support this movie and fight back against these monsters who are the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. These people who are actually trying to defend these disgusting pedophile sex slavers, these horrible terrorists, these monsters in this movie. I was cheering for Rambo when he did the things he did. The one thing I wanted to mention, this movie is what Sicario 2 should have been. That's what I wanted to say. That's why I was kind of rambling on, because Sicario 2 was a huge letdown, and this movie is what Sicario 2 should have been. That's what I wanted to say. That's this movie in general. I would describe this movie as Death Wish meets Home Alone. That's this movie. So anyways, goodbye everybody. See you soon.